Welcome, dear students. Here is a new recording with a new topic about the emergence of the English theater. So, basically, this is going to be a kind of a history of how the English theater started. So, we are not here concerned with the development, let's say, in topics or themes or ideas. We are just trying to trace the history. When did all this started, the English theater? Okay, so we are going to find ourselves actually trying to go back to the origin of this thing which is called a drama. When was the first time that people actually created such a thing? So drama is the most natural of the arts. It comes from actually from the human nature itself, being based on one of the most fundamental of the human and animal faculties, the faculty of imitation. So basically, drama or the creation of drama started, we can say, since the beginning of time, of history, because this is part of the human nature, to imitate things that they see in nature, to imitate things they see around in the world. This is part of the human formation, the human structure. Okay, so this is something comes naturally to man to imitate things, and the imitation creates drama. So, according to anthropology, drama is deep rooted in the religious disposition of human beings. Something that's really interesting about drama is that when we analyze the first attempts actually of creating drama by human beings, we see that they were based on religious purposes. They were done for religious purposes, like, for example, to bring goodness, to bring the rain, to let's say eliminate bad or evil spirits, something like this. Primitive cultures, actually, we find out that actually this is something goes back to the time when people were still living in primitive societies and culture. Primitive cultures used to perform ceremonies, or what they called rituals, to gods or spirits. They believed actually that nature, things in nature, they have spirits and they can influence life of human beings. They have, maybe they are gods. See, through mimetic performances to bring goodness and keep away evil. So they believe that if they perform certain rituals or certain actions to imitate certain things in nature, they are going to influence the spirits and the gods inside uh, nature, and that either bring good or remove evil. And it was something like this, you see. So they even sometimes created costumes, things to wear, in order to make this ritual seem very creative. You see, the rituals help to explain, either they do it to explain their tradition, religion, or to nature. So, for example, if there is a time for hunting, before going to hunt, people of these primitive cultures, they used to perform these ceremonies so that maybe the outcome of their hunting becomes very fluent, very excessive. So they get, uh, uh, I think the right word is affluent. So sometimes if the young children get older, it has a certain ceremony so that they will be maybe blessed or to be courageous. So these kind of dramatic depictions, you see, they were performing certain dances, they were maybe telling certain story. So they were kind of pantomime, you see, stories shown and not told. And this is the essence of a drama, not to tell a story, but to show it, to the audience. So when you come to the Middle Ages, in the Middle Ages, the church was the dominant institution in English society. When we speak about these times, the Middle Ages, for example, and it means we are talking about 13th, 14th, 15th century. In this period of time, the church has a really significant role in society. It was very dominant. It was controlling everything. So the church was really concerned with conveying to its members the majesty of the theme of Christ's sacrifice through dramatic means. So it was really important for those who were the clergymen in these churches, the head of these churches, to show to people the story of Jesus Christ, the stories of the Bible in general. So how can they do this? You see, how can they tell people about these different stories in the Bible? They use the dramatic means. So drama actually could help them do this. So and the use or the benefit of using drama, if you look here, who are the people they intended to show these stories to? They were common people, because common people, first of all, they are not really well educated to be able to read the Bible, because Bible was written in Latin, you see, and it was really difficult for people in that time to read, especially, for example, farmers, ordinary people, poor people. They were not having this good or enough education so that they are able to read. Okay, so it was this audience that these dramatic depictions were aimed to. So the church wanted to reach to the wider audience of common people. So people unable to read or to take much pleasure in the sermons. And also, you see, when they go to church and they listen to the sermons, it is not something interesting to listen to sometimes. It's really boring or dull. So to create a story or a drama, to show these stories as a play to them, would be more interesting, and at the same time it would make the church reach to its own aims and purpose. So the more important of the teachings of the church, it was really important that these teachings reach to these people. Okay, so the drama originated to depict biblical scenes, as most people could not understand the Bible, which was written in Latin. So plays without dialogues or costumes. So they were plays, but actually there is no dialogue, no speeches of the characters, just something like a pantomime. See, just depicting the scene. No costumes, no special things to wear, no speech, just the scene, people acting silently. They were performed in churches, inside the church. So where do we have these plays performed? Inside the church, on special occasions. Okay, so we can see that the beginning of a drama was where? From the church. It started in the church. Something like this. If you actually, I found this on the internet. I guess it's something similar to this, to show, for example, the devil, the angels, Jesus Christ, Virgin Mary, to show them, for example, doing something like, for example, the birth of Jesus Christ, these different important occasions that we find in the Bible. Later on, what happened? This religious drama became popular. Actually, people liked it. See, the plays about the saints' miracles demanded more staging managing. So now, what about the other things in the Bible? Like, for example, the saints, the miracles. How can we teach people about these miracles? Actually, it's not easy just to make pantomimes for them. We need to make some kind of, maybe, because miracles means things that are extraordinary. So how can you depict something extraordinary on stage? You need to make more what managing costumes, things that, for example, fly or come from under the ground, or so these things required new place. Inside the church was not any more suitable for that. So as a result, the plays turned into complete presentations divorced from the ritual of the church. So now, in order to let's say, to meet these new requirements, now it's not easy anymore to perform inside the church. We have to go somewhere outside the church, somewhere that is really open. I have more tools, more requirements. I have a stage. Okay, so gradually we see that these performances started to come out of the church. They moved out to the churchyard, but not very far away, to the churchyard, then into the town itself. See, gradually, one by one. First into the yard, and then they moved to the town, so away from the church. So they went through a process of secularization. So whenever they come out, actually, it is not only coming out of the church physically, it could be a coming out of the church, even spiritually. The more you take these performances outside and you give them to the people outside, you are secularizing them. You are making them more human or more related to the ordinary people, away from the sacredness of the church. Okay, so which means the control and the participation by the non-religious, by the man in the street, as opposed to the priest in the church. So in the beginning, who were performing these plays? Priests, people who worked in the church, clergymen, religious people. But when they started to move away out of the church, even the ordinary singers, people, actors, they were performing something, they having part in these plays. So this made these plays gradually lose this kind of religious quality they had. Okay, these plays that came out of the church were called miracle plays because they were performing what dealt with miracles of Christ and his followers. That's the reason they are called miracle plays. But what we need to know about them is that they were out of the church. They started this change in the performances. What happened later? So gradually changes started to appear on the production of the plays. So as soon as these plays were in the hands of ordinary, non-religious people, what happened to them? Vernacular language was introduced instead of the unintelligible Latin. So people, instead of using language they don't understand, why not use the vernacular language, the daily language we use every day when we speak? It would be more obvious, clear to us. So why use something that we don't understand? The local language, the local English, slang maybe, vernacular. So the citizens of the town, singers, jugglers, took a hand in the performance. The religious spirit of these performances was yielding to this change. So anyone could perform now in these plays. Anyone, any singer, anyone, any actor, maybe any person passing by could join and perform in these plays. So this created a huge change in the spirit, in the actual purpose of these performances was religious in the beginning. But now, as it is moving to the hands of ordinary people, the purpose, or let's say the shape of these plays, started to change. It was looking like something like this. See, going out, and actually these stages were removable. You can move them different towns. I mean, you start, for example, acting this play in this town and then you move to another town, and these were called, I think they were called cycles. You see, cycles which start with a certain event in the Bible, story from the Bible, and then they reach to a certain point, for example with the death of Jesus Christ, something like this. So they were performing outside the church and they were moving from one place to another. So this is how the beginning of coming out of the church, you see. And this is something outside the church and in the yard, you see, in the churchyard, performing inside. And you see people are the audience, they are standing and looking at this play performed, something like this. So what happened next? Now we have another kind of plays that appeared, which called morality plays. What do we mean by this? So morality plays then emerged as more direct and compact means to teach Christian morality than the miracle and mystery plays, which were based on biblical stories. So as soon as we are out of the church now, we are looking for other kind of stories, not the biblical stories. Why just mention these miracles or these stories from the Bible? Why not, for example, create new stories, but they have these moral messages that we usually find in the biblical stories? They would be easier to understand for people and they would be more closer to them, to their lives, okay, than these biblical stories, which seems very ancient, very old, and maybe unrealistic. So the moralities had for the writers this advantage, that they allowed some independence in the invention of the story. Now the writers are independent in creating the stories they like. Okay. Later on, so you see, now we are trying to see how this started. I mean, gradually we see that the plays they were taken out of the church. The things that were added were related to language, the costumes, the staging, and then now we come to the content. Even the content has started to change. It is no more the sacred stories of the Bible. Later on, another kind of plays appeared, which is called the interlude. It is a kind of secular morality play with comic and realistic elements. It originated as a performance between the courses of a banquet. That's why it's called interlude. Interlude means something that is in between two courses. So in a banquet, people are sitting to eat and to enjoy their time. Between the courses, they were bringing these actors, players, and they performed some kind of sketches, comic sketch maybe. But the characteristic of this sketch is that it was realistic, something from daily life, you see? So it was more amusing, more interesting to people than listening to stories from the Bible. What happened next? In the Renaissance, now we are moving with time. We reach to the Renaissance with the emergence of humanism, and we all know that the most important characteristic about Renaissance is the emergence of this movement, which is called humanism, which concentrates or focuses more on the human being rather than God or sacred things. Now, the focus or the focal point in the universe is a human being, not God, for example. This is what this humanism is about. So there was an inclination towards the classical forms, especially the tragedy. So they believed that why not go back to the tragedies of the ancient times, the Greek tragedies, and try to give them back this form. That our drama should be written in this form, the tragedy. And they were influenced actually. So, in this period, the focus was on presenting human life as it is. The favorite classical writer of tragedies among English humanists was Seneca, and Seneca was a really very well-known Greek writer, and he wrote significant plays. So they took from him the form of the tragedy, you see, and they saw that actually the tragedy is more suitable for writing than giving moral plays. Okay, the first English tragedy was called Gorboduc by Thomas Sackville and Thomas Norton. So this is the first example of a tragedy written in English. And of course, when we speak about English drama, we couldn't skip the most famous William Shakespeare. So following the Renaissance, we have the Elizabethan period, which is considered the stage where the English theatre was established. What do we mean by this? Actually, the word theatre was first used in this period. And when we speak about theater, we are talking about the stage, the place where audience sit, the stage where the actors perform. So the reputations of Elizabethan actors were that of vagabonds and thieves. The problem with the Elizabethan period is not anyone was allowed to perform plays and make acting companies. And actors were not really very actually they were infamous in their societies. So traveling through the era was restricted and required the license. Now there is no capability of actors to, for example, travel from one town to another town and perform. This was not allowed. You have to get a license. So those who have the license, they were considered to be having acting companies, writing good plays. Okay. So now we see that in the Elizabethan period, now we have something more limited about the production of plays and tragedies. And they were trying to regulate them, to give them laws and regulations. So regulations restricting actors soon followed, and licenses were granted to the nobles of England for the maintenance of troops of players. So there were people from the nobility, wealthy people, who supported certain companies, acting companies, and these acting companies were considered to be the only one allowed to produce plays. And actually, Queen Elizabeth was really interested in literature and arts, and she herself was among the audience of these plays. She was of the audience of Shakespeare himself. Okay, that's why she was really you can say she cared that there are certain regulations about these plays. Not anyone could perform. Okay, and this is, you see, this is the Globe Theatre that was created by William Shakespeare. Theaters, this is what we call theater. When we speak about drama, we are talking about the play, but when we speak about theater, we are talking about this. See, so it was something like this, round. You see, this is the stage, and here the audience sitting around. Okay, so the use of expensive metaphors in the text and the requirements of a license lead to the opening of the first public theater, known as the theater. So you see, the first public theater was called the theater, and it was by a carpenter named James Burbank. Okay, this is where the term English theater comes from. When there were stages built like this with places for the audience, this is what we call theater. Okay, so the Globe, which is later owned by Shakespeare, and this is the famous acting company also that he had, was a model for a number of theaters built later on. Actually, it is a very good example, and they followed this example. Other companies that started their own theaters, they followed this example. So although the influence of Renaissance continued to the Elizabethan period, English drama witnessed significant progress in this period. Actually, Elizabethan drama is really famous and well known, and we see that actually it was the time for the English drama. This period, more important plays were written. Plays were now entirely free from religious themes. You see, it started with religion, but later on they were free completely from religion. They were not even allowed to speak about religious topics, and they were not connected to public holidays or religious festivals. So now we see that actually the English theatre established itself, and it was totally separate from religion and the church. Historical topics were especially popular with the new playwrights in a period when a sense of English nationalism was developing as never before. So Elizabethan period actually is a period of feeling this pride of being English. You see, this feeling of nationalism, patriotism, and the reason behind this actually because it was the time when the English Navy defeated the Spanish Armada. So it was a period of victories for the English nation. So writing historical plays enhanced this feeling. You see, that's why we found actually there are a lot of historical plays that were written in this period. This combined with a humanist interest in Greek and Roman antiquity. So also they tried to bring the forms, let's say the kind of plays they borrowed from the Greek and Roman cultures, the forms that they used in order to write these plays. Okay. When the Civil War broke out in 1642, the Puritans, so we all know that actually the English Civil War was in this period in 1642, and the Puritans were ruling now. This in this period in which we know Oliver Cromwell, he declared England as a republic, you see. So the Puritans were dominant in this period, and the Puritans are somehow very strict people. So they closed all theaters and forbade public dramatic performances of any kind. Unfortunately, they were not people who were really interested in literature and art. But this and this actually created a break in the production of plays for almost 18 years, okay, until the restoration of Charles II. Charles II was in France. After he came back to England, he was really interested in, we can say he was really influenced by the French culture. So he brought with him the French influence on the English theatre, and you see in this period that again the English theatre flourished once again, and we see that we have female writers. We started to see women acting on stage. We started to see new ideas, new themes, new stories that started to appear, and this was the emergence. And actually we know that later on English theatre developed till we reached to the modern and the contemporary period. So this was in brief kind of a brief history of the emergence of English theatre.